Ever catch yourself saying, education is life?
Yeah.
We toss that phrase around, but what if it's not just a metaphor? What if it's a literal truth about how our minds need to be fed? That's what we're diving into today with Charlotte Mason.
Right.
Now, those familiar with Mason's work know she dives deep into this idea, and today we're going to uncover her fascinating insights into how our minds thrive on a steady diet of, well, ideas.
Okay.
So let's set the table here.
Yeah.
If our minds literally need ideas to thrive, how do we make sure they're getting a healthy and balanced diet?
Well, I think Mason kicks things off with a really powerful analogy, comparing food for the body to fuel for an engine.
Right.
Just like we carefully consider what we're putting into our body, shouldn't we be just as mindful of our mental food?
It's so true. But here's where I always get tripped up. She doesn't just say learning or information. She specifically says the mind thrives on ideas.
Right.
What's the difference? Is it just semantics, or is there something deeper there?
It's a fantastic question, and Mason actually provides a really vivid illustration. She compares mere information to a meal of sawdust. You're technically consuming something, but it doesn't offer any real nourishment. Right. An idea, on the other hand, is a live thing, something that captures your imagination, sparks a fire in your mind, even possesses you, as she puts it.
Okay, that's a powerful image.
Yeah.
I can see how a dry textbook fact might be like sawdust, while a thought-provoking concept could really light you up.
Yeah.
But how can we tell the difference? Are there specific qualities that make an idea stick with us, make it truly nourishing?
That's where it gets really interesting. Think about a time when a book, a movie, a conversation sparked an idea that wouldn't leave your mind.
You mean those aha moments when something just clicks?
Exactly. These are the live things. Mason talks about concepts that resonate with you on a deeper level, change how you see the world, maybe even motivate you to act. They're not passive. They have energy, a kind of life force.
Yeah.
And Mason argues that these live things, these potent ideas, are what truly nourish our minds.
That makes so much sense. And yet it feels like the traditional education system, with its emphasis on memorization and rote learning, often misses the mark when it comes to cultivating this kind of active engagement with ideas, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's ironic, isn't it? We talk about bright ideas all the time, yet so much of formal education seems to shy away from them.
Right.
Even when we do encounter great literature or historical narratives, they're often dissected and analyzed to the point where the original spark, that initial captivating idea, gets lost in the process.
It's like we get so bogged down in the mechanics that we forget to let the ideas themselves capture our imaginations.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from this cycle? How do we ensure our minds are feasting on a banquet of ideas, not just nibbling on sawdust?
Well, Mason believed that it's not just about the what, but also the how. She placed great emphasis on the process by which an idea takes root in the mind. It's not about force-feeding information, but about creating a rich and varied diet of ideas through diverse avenues like literature, history, art, even current events.
It's about cultivating a taste for those meatier ideas, those concepts that stick with us and shape our understanding of the world. But before we explore how to do that, I think we need to unpack another crucial piece of Mason's philosophy, something she called narration. Now, for those who aren't familiar with her work,
It's a fascinating concept, and it builds beautifully on what we've been discussing about live things and mental nourishment. Essentially, narration is the process of taking in these potent ideas, letting them simmer in our minds, and then finding our own way to express what we've learned.
so it's not just about consuming ideas, but also about digesting them,
Right.
almost like we do with food, and then creating something new from that process.
Exactly. And this creating something new doesn't necessarily mean writing a novel or composing a symphony, although it certainly could.
Yeah.
It's more about the act of engaging with the ideas, making them our own. This could be as simple as retelling a story in our own words, having a thoughtful conversation with a friend, or even just reflecting on what we've learned and letting it shape our own thinking.
So it's about taking ownership of those ideas, weaving them into our own understanding of the world. You know, it makes me think about how we often talk about the importance of a generous curriculum, but it's not always clear what that actually looks like in practice.
That's such a great point. A generous curriculum, in Mason's view, isn't about cramming in as much information as possible. It's about curating a rich tapestry of experiences that expose us to a diverse range of ideas and disciplines.
It's like being a curator for your own mind.
Right.
You get to choose what goes in your mental museum.
I love that analogy. And just like a museum curator carefully selects each piece to tell a story, we too can curate our mental collections by seeking out books, art, music, and experiences that resonate with our interests and values.
This makes me think about something else Mason was wary of, especially relevant in our age, of instant opinions and hot takes. And that's the difference between being presented with opinions versus being challenged by ideas.
That's such a crucial distinction. Opinions, especially when they're presented as the final word on something, can actually stifle thought rather than stimulate it.
It's like being handed a plate of already chewed food, not very appetizing.
Right.
Ideas, on the other hand, are the raw ingredients they invite us to engage, to wrestle with them, to form our own conclusions.
Precisely. A steady diet of sensationalized news, shallow entertainment, or even just fragmented bits of information is the mental equivalent of junk food. It might be temporarily stimulating, but it doesn't offer much in the way of lasting sustenance.
So how do we, as active participants in our own mental diets, make sure we're getting the good stuff? How do we cultivate a taste for those meatier ideas that lead to genuine nourishment and growth?
Mason uses a rather unexpected analogy here, drawing from the book of Isaiah. She compares the process of cultivating ideas to a farmer tending to their fields. A farmer doesn't just scatter seeds randomly. There's an art to preparing the soil, planting in rows, giving the seeds what they need to grow.
So we're talking about being intentional, creating the right conditions for those seeds of ideas to flourish.
Exactly. And that's where that generous curriculum we talk about comes into play. It's about providing fertile ground for a diverse range of ideas to take root and grow. Think about exposing ourselves to ideas from different fields, history, science, philosophy, art.
It's like becoming a culinary artist, combining unexpected flavors to create something wholly new and exciting.
Exactly. That cross-pollination of ideas is where things get really interesting. It's in those moments of unexpected connection, when we start to see the world through multiple lenses, that learning transforms from passive absorption to active creation.
Suddenly, we're not just consuming information, we're actively making sense of the world, forging our own paths of understanding.
Yeah.
It's in those moments that education truly becomes a life.
And what's even more exciting is that this journey of lifelong learning is never truly finished. There's always something new to discover, a new perspective, to consider, another layer of the onion to peel back.
So how do we make sure we're not just passively consuming information, but truly engaging with these ideas, letting them take root and shape our understanding of the world? Any practical tips from Mrs. Mason?
Well, I think Mason would point right back to narration. And remember, it's not about memorizing and regurgitating. It's about that active digestion of ideas.
So it's in the act of narrating, of finding our own way to express what we've learned, that we truly internalize those live things, those concepts that resonate deeply.
Exactly. Think of it like building a fire. You can gather all the wood and kindling you want, but until you strike a match and create that spark, you don't have a flame.
Narration is that spark.
I love that. So what does this narration look like in practice? Is it just about summarizing what we've read or heard?
It can be, but it's also so much more than that. It's about making those ideas our own down, connecting them to our own experiences, and expressing them in a way that feels authentic to us. Maybe you're inspired to write a poem, compose a song, paint a picture, or have a lively debate with a friend. So it's about taking those raw ingredients, those live things that have sparked our imaginations, and transforming them into something new, something entirely our own.
Precisely. And in doing so, we not only deepen our own understanding, but also contribute to that ongoing conversation of ideas that shapes our world.
That's such a powerful image. This idea of education as an ongoing conversation, a collaborative process of discovery and exploration. It's not about reaching some predetermined destination, but about embracing the journey itself, those aha moments, those unexpected connections that make learning so invigorating.
And just like with any good journey, it's often the detours, the unexpected turns that lead us to the most rewarding destinations. The key is to approach learning not as a chore, but as an adventure, to cultivate that insatiable curiosity, that hunger for ideas that can nourish our minds and help us make sense of this wild, wonderful, often perplexing world we live in.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the nourishing power of ideas, it seems like we're left with an exciting challenge: to move beyond passive consumption and become active seekers of those live things, those potent transformative concepts that have the power to shape not just our minds, but our lives.
What if instead of letting information wash over us, we approached learning with a spirit of joyful exploration, eager to uncover those ideas that resonate deeply, spark our imaginations, and inspire us to see the world with fresh eyes?
That's something to chew on, isn't it? Until next time, happy learning, fellow knowledge seekers.